Hey, I'm back with No Frills Hi-Fi. Today I wanted to show you something I bought on Amazon. It's called the Vinyl Vac. I got this on Amazon for, I think it was around 30 bucks. Yeah, I just made my record dirty. Um, when Whenever you have vinyl records, you always, of course, want to try to keep them as clean as possible. Um, this is a really neat little gadget. At first, when I saw it, I was thinking, snake oil. There's a lot of snake oil in the industry, and a lot of perceived snake oil because maybe your system isn't up to snuff and you're not hearing a difference that maybe you think you should. So I kind of didn't really know what to think of it. I'm going to be honest with you. I love this thing, and it's such a simple little thing, little tool or toy or whatever, but I mean, it couldn't be any easier, couldn't be any cheaper. Why don't you have one already? Um, so what this is, Vinyl Vac is exactly what it says. It is a vacuum attachment for cleaning vinyl records. It is very simple. This is a PVC pipe, PVC fittings, stick it together. It's got a little hole right here that the spindle for the record goes on, and then it's got a little slot right here with some felt on it, little felt right there so it doesn't mess up your label. Stick your vacuum cleaner hose in there, you put it on there, and you turn your record. Couldn't be any easier. 30 bucks. Don't miss out. Now, what I think is really cool about this, I know there's a lot of people that are going to say, well, I could just build that myself. I could buy those fittings. I could drill a hole in it. I can take a saw and, cut that, slit. I could put some felt on it. Why would I spend 30 bucks on this? Well, that's a good question. You could make it on your own, but are you gonna? I know I wasn't gonna. I thought about it, and I looked it up and, priced it out, and yeah, I could make it myself for about the same price I'm going to pay for it, because the price of building materials is ridiculous, and my time is worth something too, so yeah, maybe $5 worth of materials here, but I'm not going to build it myself. Let's be honest, you're probably not going to either. Now, as far as cost of building materials, it does come with 2 extra felt strips. It does come with 2 extra felt little things here, little circles. It comes with 2 extra O-rings and 2 extra end caps. So the O-ring, I don't know if I can get it apart now, but the O-ring, yeah. So this fitting comes out. Initially when I got it, it wasn't put together. I didn't do an unboxing because honestly I've had this for a little while, but the O-ring goes between those two. I gotta be honest, I never put the O-ring in there. I'm using it without, and it seems to work just fine. I've used it for quite some time, but if I ever do feel like pulling that apart, I'll put it in there just to see. It does come with the instructions, this little door hanger thing now spinning. I can't imagine using that, but it does tell you where to get the replacement pads from, and this can be used wet or dry. They do make a 45 version if you have 45s. I've never used this wet because honestly my only wet dry vac is a shop vac that would probably just destroy a record from sucking too hard. I will say some other stuff that I did to make it easier to use. I didn't want to use this on my turntable. If I'm not playing a record with a turntable, I'm not going to use it. I just don't like the extra wear and tear. I don't want a vacuum cleaner running on it. So what I did was I took this. I don't normally handle my records the way I'm going to handle this. I'm just letting you know ahead of time I'm going to handle this album like trash because it basically is. So, don't hold that against me. What I've got here though is I got this from Aldi. I think it was $5. This is just a Lazy Susan like you might have on your dining room table. I took a drill bit and drilled a little hole in the middle, and I glued this dowel rod to the center. I did put this little felt circle thing on there, and initially that's what I was going to use, but then I didn't really like that. I don't like, you know, that scratchiness against my records, so I did put this turntable slit mount on here. I've got an acrylic one that I put on my turntable, so I had this rubber one laying around, so I just kind of stuck that on there, and then I can hook up my vacuum to it and just kind of rotate it by hand. While you're doing the cleaning, this is kind of a good time for record maintenance, you know. One thing I did want to kind of talk about, but not enough to make a separate video. If you'll notice that record is a little loose on here, this is not the correct size spindle, but the reason I did that is a lot of times the first thing that I do when I get a record is I clean it. In fact, I would say every time, without fail, I clean the record before I play it, even if it's a brand new one and I'm taking the wrapper off for the first time. So I intentionally made that a little smaller. The reason I did is some albums, especially if you get an album made in like the 90s, I've noticed that hole in the center of the album is not the correct size. The correct size, I believe, is 7.3 millimeters. So I've got this little drill bit right here, and you can get like a T-handle for it if you want, but this would be the time you're going to kind of hold it on the label, and you just kind of want to barely start it, just barely cut, and then flip it around. Yeah, knocked into that. I would be more careful if I cared about this. And then do the other side. So you want to score the label first, because you don't want to drill all the way through the record and have that label pop out on the other side. You want to cut it very cleanly. So, you know, this would be the time when I first get the album. If I think that it's not going to fit on the spindle of my turntable, you know how a lot of times you get those records that are kind of tight. You have to really push it down to get it to work. That's where something like this comes in. 7.3 millimeter bit. I'll put it in the notes if it's any different than that. I think that's, yeah, it says 7.3. You know, this is the time to go ahead and clean it up, because what you don't want is when you get over to the turntable, you don't want to have to kind of force that down on the spindle. It's not so bad putting it on because you can do it really close. It's not going to affect it. But when you're pulling it back off, if you're pulling from the edges and it's stuck in the center, you can damage a record. So, you know, this is a good time to do some maintenance on it while you've, you know, first got the album. Go ahead and check it out. That's one of the things I do, is just make sure that that's okay before I go put it on my turntable. You don't need to do that, though. You know, if you don't want to, you basically can just go ahead and start vacuuming it. The big thing that you want to remember whenever you're doing it, though, please go ahead and brush the record first, just like you would on the turntable. Use a brush with it to get the heavy stuff off, because this does have the felt there. It's going to trap some of the dust on the surface in that felt, and it's just going to scratch your record with it. So, you know, particularly like this one. This is an album I got out of the free bin at the record store. It's scratched beyond use. It honestly was a Walmart exclusive Lynyrd Skynyrd album. Not disparaging Lynyrd Skynyrd, I think they're good, I like their music, but I've probably heard everything on this album so many times on the classic rock stations that I don't need to hear it ever again. But I needed an album that was messed up so I could kind of use it for stuff like this. Everybody should have that one album they just don't care anything about, so that they can, you know, try to test new things with it. This isn't an album that I would put on my turntable just because it is so scratched up. But mostly I just wanted to kind of use it as a demonstration. Like I said, I'm not going to hook a vacuum up to this because I'm sure you know what a vacuum sounds like and does, but basically I would do this with any new album that I get. There are other alternatives. I know, like the Record Doctor X, I'm going to be testing here in just a few minutes. That one I'm really excited about. That's a kind of a wet vac for it. It's an automatic thing. Project also makes one. So there's other options, but this is by far the simplest, cheapest option just to kind of get you started cleaning your records and get into the habit of taking good care of them. But that's really it. Just remember, please brush it first and then do this. And you can do that wet or dry. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. But hey, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my other videos. I'll do another one cleaning with the other Record Doctor. But yeah, $30 well spent. Catch you later.